Welcome to iLevel to High Level, where real talk meets real results. I'm Jimmy Rios, and each week we break down the mindset, money moves, and strategies you need to elevate your life and business. Let's level up. Welcome to the iLevel to High Level program. This is Jimmy Rios. I'm your host. This is program number 30. I can't believe how fast time has gone. Today is actually, you'll get to see this probably in the new year, but it's December 30th. We're wrapping up the year with a special guest who I just had to have on the show. As I get to know her more, I'm just in love with the things she says and what she's doing, and she's a perfect guest to be on the show because we talk about taking yourself from the eye level to high level. And what does that really mean, right? And Charisse Pigott is our guest, and she was on our show last, and she's an amazing woman. And she's overcome a lot of things to be where she's at right now. Today, I want to talk about leadership and impact. And I want to talk to her about what this means. And let me ask you, what does leadership mean to you when no one is watching?
Integrity. Leadership means leadership. What leadership means to me is not just not doing the right, well, doing the right thing when
Right.
someone's not looking, but also being able to get in there and do the things with people who are actually doing the work for you.
Right.
One example I can give you is, and goes back to my Marine Corps days. I had a couple of privates and lance corporals, and we were out in the field, and we had to provide we had to provide
Food.
food. We had to provide food for this leadership course for, I believe it was sergeants, or maybe it could have been corporals. Either way, people
Yeah.
don't understand rank structure. So it was for a group of people that were out in the field doing a
Yeah.
leadership course. And the people who I was in charge of, they were cooking. And I'm like, let me help you out here. Let me move the trash. Let me do something. Even though I was in charge of them, I still got out there and worked with them. And I think it's important that to be with the people that you're working with, like lead by example, so to
Yeah.
speak. So other than leading by example, also, and like I said, integrity too. And then another thing I would throw in there is showing respect no matter how low the rank or the title is. Like if you come into a building and you see a janitor, you should say good morning to the janitor just as you would the CEO who comes into the
Wow.
building.
That's such a good point. I think
Yeah.
I think ego kicks in a person's life in different ways, and I
Hmm.
think ego is like, for me, lack of humility. Right?
Yeah.
Ego is the opposite of humility, right? And when you start believing that you're more than, that's lack of humility, right? And
Yeah.
when we talk about leadership, and a lot of people lose sight of leadership when we start talking about humility, because they think that a leader has to be egotistical, and I think a leader can be confident. I think a leader can set the tone by their actions, but when I see a leader who's also humble to be able to partake and go in the trenches with me and do the things that I'm doing, that elevates. You talk about high level here, right?
Yeah.
That elevates that person to another echelon because you're doing what maybe others don't even want to do, right? You're
Right.
partaking and saying, "Let me jump in there and help you," and not let your ego get in the way and saying, "Well, I'm not at that rank, or I'm not." That's their job, right? How many people in jobs say, "Well, that's not my pay. That's not what I'm getting
That's
paid to
above my
do.
pay scale.
That's not on my pay scale," right? They use these
Yeah.
stupid little things because
Yeah.
their truth is they just don't want to do it, That's the
Right.
truth, right? And so
And
they
one
use,
thing else I would like to add is that you don't have to be in the CEO or the manager to be a leader. You can still
right.
be a leader at a entry level position, whatever that may be.
Well, 100%.
One thing that I did when I was working at Big Lots, if there was no customers coming in and I saw people out, stocking things, I'd be like, "Hey, do you need help with that? Can I help
Right.
stock the shelves?"
Yep.
Because that's taking initiative and that's offering help. That's being
Yes.
a leader.
Well,
So
and that
yeah.
was one thing that I was talking to my kids about because,
Hmm.
like, going to school is not just about getting the letter grade, right? It's about putting the actions behind all these little tasks. You know, when going in the military,
Yeah.
you have a lot of objectives and goals and things you have to do. But why do you think in the military they have you do these other things that you're like, why am I doing this? Like, how does that equate to anything that I'm to this objective, right? Why do I have
Yeah.
to go, do these menial things, right? Clean toilets or
Right.
whatever those things are that many wouldn't do or even
Yeah.
think of doing. But it's to start building the mindset, right? The
Yep.
character building, to start thinking differently of not giving up on something, right? And I tell the kids
Yep.
that, like, don't think that just because they have you doing this, you say, well, I'm not going to use that ever in my life. That's not the point. Yeah, maybe you might not use trigonometry or whatever, but it's the mindset of how do I put this problem and solve for a problem, right? It's
Right.
it's the thinking pieces that go behind that, the patterns that you build on. So very important, that we start differentiating ego from, in leadership, right? Start learning how to manage that ego to be able to elevate yourself and help others, right? We
Yeah.
forget that the law of reciprocity in helping others goes such a long way. And many times in the darkest of times what I was going through, when I was going through my recovery, step 12
Hmm.
in recovery is about giving back, doing service work, right? Helping
Yes.
others not with the expectation of getting paid back. It's for what it does in helping another person, right? And being able to feel better, to do the best things for yourself. So I love that, you put that in there in
Hmm.
leadership. Now, how do you protect your energy while still serving others? Because
Oh man.
tell me
Oh,
about
that's
that,
so great.
right?
So one thing that I do in particular that I've started doing maybe in the last 5 years, I don't put my social life, well, my private life on social media. And
Yeah,
what I mean by that is I don't post everywhere I'm going. If I do post it, it's probably happened last year,
sure.
maybe 5 months ago. So that's one thing, like just making sure that my personal life is sacred.
Yeah,
And it should be, if I do talk about it, it should be given to people who are in my circle, like Jimmy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
definitely.
know but for real, like it should only be to your circle. It shouldn't
Right.
go out to everyone because then that allows for other people to judge you. That allows for other people, like when you post, my plan for 2026 is to do this, that, and the third. You haven't even started accomplishing it. Now you
Right.
have people bringing negative energy towards you, projections like we talked about in
I
the last
thought you were
episode.
gonna run a 5K. What happened to that?
Yeah,
right,
yeah. And 2026 hasn't even started
right,
yet. And
right,
so,
right,
like maybe I'm running it at the end of 2026
right.
and it's like whatever.
Yes.
But so that's another way. I also don't, just because you invite me doesn't mean I'm going.
Yeah.
So I make sure that like I'm not, if it's not conducive to my mental health, I don't attend. I don't go around people who don't have similar lifestyles. So everyone's lifestyle is fine. So, but like if they're doing drugs and everything, to each their own. I
Yeah.
don't have to be a part of it. I
Right.
don't do drugs. So I
Yeah.
don't need to go hang out with people who do drugs. you know,
Right.
or
Yep.
I don't, you know, I'm not a clubber anymore. I used to
Right.
go clubbing in my
Sure.
20s. I don't
Sure.
go to the clubs. And plus, what's happening at clubs? They're either shooting or everyone's standing around, like,
It's
you
not.
know,
It's not the It's just not
going.
your
Right.
environment, and that's okay.
Right.
It's
And
okay to
so
have that.
that's another, yeah, so that's another way I just don't attend things that are not bringing positivity to my life.
Right.
And I make sure that my personal life is sacred to me, and I'm not giving too much information away, if that makes
Listen,
sense.
I this goes in the topic of don't be a sheep, right? Start forging your own
Yeah.
path, right?
Yeah.
Forging your own path and be very strong in your convictions that that path is your path, and and protect it, right? Protect your path because that's one of the biggest. I'm a extremely positive thinker, right? People are always like, "How come you're never sad?" That doesn't mean I'm not sad. In my path, it's protected, right? And if I
Right.
choose to show those emotions, that's on me to show that, right? Doesn't mean I don't
Right.
go through problems. It does nothing. It's not a facade when I'm smiling. There's, it's how I choose to handle adversity. It's how I choose to handle my day to day and feeling, right? Because what I learned was that problems are always going to exist, right? So it's my choice
Absolutely.
to be negative and cry or not cry. Not saying you can't, because I do it all the time. Sometimes I got to let go of those emotions, and that's okay. You have to have a release. What I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is that there needs to be a way for you to have that path without anybody telling you or putting their own 2 cents in on your path. And I respect that, wholeheartedly respect that. That's good. This is what I like to call uncomfortable but necessary. What's
Okay.
a hard truth people need to hear but they don't want to accept?
Ooh, that you need healthy boundaries.
Wow. Boundaries. Ding 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 ding. Elaborate a little on that because I think that's a very good topic.
So, I have not talked about my relationship with my biological father.
Right.
And one thing that I like to say about that is that it hasn't always been great. But we continue to move forward and everything. And one thing that people need to understand, whether it's your parents, whether they are friends or family members, is that like you have to let them know, hey, I'm not okay with this. If someone's being inconsistent in your life, if someone's trying to put you in situations where you don't want to be in, you have to tell them. You have to let them know. People are scared. Some people are like, "Oh, I'm not going to tell this person this because it's going to hurt their feelings." But what about your feelings? If you don't stick up for yourself, who's going to take care of you? And
No.
so one thing that I've learned, not just with me and my father's relationship, but me and family members, me and any type of friendships, or relationships in general, if it's not good for my mental, I go back to it, if it's not good for my
Yeah.
mental health and I can't do it, I cannot do it.
Right.
So yeah.
If it's not good for me, it's not for me.
Yep. I
Right.
need to put that on a shirt.
But no, that's just, man, that is so true. Boundaries were one of the hardest things for me to
Hmm.
to grasp and to really handle because I'm very naturally like a people pleaser, right? And I
Hmm.
learned that
I
over
was
time,
too.
yeah, and that's not good, right?
Yeah,
And
people will walk over you
all
if you
over
let
you,
them, and
right?
you can't
Right.
let them.
And my wife is the opposite. She's
Hmm.
very strong minded. So she'll say things just as it comes and doesn't. She knows how to put her boundaries and with conviction. And I've
Yeah.
learned a lot from her. I'll be married 10 years in February, and I've taken so much from that, right? That
Yeah.
strength and the ability to do that. Because for me, it was very difficult. And I got that from my dad, who also had problems and I remember as a kid having
Hmm.
listening to my parents fight because of my dad's lack of boundaries and not being able to
Mm.
say no to his brothers or sisters came from a big family, and he was always, helping them in money or this or that. And mom was like,
Yep.
why? It's just as easy to say yes as it is to say no, right? You don't have to. I'm not saying you can't help. It's just that there's times and places where you need to put your foot down and say, like, especially if they take advantage of you,
Yep.
and right, put the boundaries down to respect yourself, right? And it took me a long time to process that myself.
Hmm.
Tell me what's something you had to unlearn to truly elevate.
Ah, I feel like I'm still going through that, Jimmy.
Yes,
I feel
so
like
you
I'm
are.
still going through that.
Yeah,
So, to be okay with just because I had this mindset at 20 does not mean I have to still have that
stay.
same mindset at 30 or at 33 or
The
at
evolution. It's
35.
the evolution of what we call maturity over time, right? Maturity comes
Yeah.
from when you're younger, like my kids, right? They know it all, but they don't know it all.
Yeah.
They think they know it all until they don't,
Right.
and then they come back and say, "Dad, what would you do in this situation?" Right? And
Right.
I thought you knew it. Oh, I thought I knew it, but I didn't, and now I need help. That's another big part is understanding where you need to ask for help, right? And
Yeah,
going
that's
back,
true. That's true.
checking yourself and saying, shoot, or accepting and admitting you made a mistake, right? That's
Right, right.
elevation is learning from that, right?
That's one thing I'm good about doing is checking myself
Yeah,
and going back to be like, okay, where did I mess up here so I can
good.
fix that? But when I say like my mentality, like I had a whole like back, let me see, when I was like in my early 20s, I was like, oh no, um, I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna be a stepmom or I'm not, but I don't have those thoughts anymore, like
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I think like with time, certain thoughts progress and you think about things because back then I had a very, well, I wouldn't say it was completely traditional mindset, but I had a lot of traditional values from my parents.
right,
But today, if I were to get married, I would hyphenate my last name if I was
right.
going to get married. But
Yeah,
back then, I probably would be like, no, I have to get married. I have to do this. I have to do because of the things that my parents taught me. And there's nothing wrong with that, but for me, I feel like I've grown from certain traditions that were taught to me as a child.
right. There's a book by Don Manuel Ruiz, Ruiz, called The Four Agreements.
Hmm.
And I want you to eventually get this book or listen to it. In the book, he talks about wearing these masks where we're
Yeah.
programmed as a child, right? We get programmed from institutions, from our parents, from religion, from different things, right? And we get to a
Yeah.
point in life where we have these masks and we put on these masks in different scenarios to basically accommodate the programming that we've been built to have, right?
Yeah, I need to read that.
Remember when you were a kid or when you watch children play and they're so free? They're
Yeah.
not they're not yet programmed. So if they do something, they're not programmed to act a certain way. They just do it. They're very just
Right.
and they're very resilient. They can come through it. They fight. They come back together, and they're like rubber bands. Just bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing. It's beautiful because they're very innocent like that. And when once we become programmed in so many different ways, we lose sight of who we really are, right? And when you become like an entrepreneur, I use it a lot because you have to learn to unprogram yourself from
Right.
thinking in the traditional, right? You have to become unorthodox in a lot of your movements. A lot of haters are out there talking crap about you. People are not
Hmm.
seeing all the work that goes behind the scenes. They only see the things they see on Facebook and the car you drive or the trips you took, but they don't see the endless hours or the failures the letdowns, the financial struggles and impending doom that we face on a day by day basis in taking on this thing we call entrepreneurship because we wanted to have our own business or we wanted to do our own thing or we wanted to follow our own passion. These are things people don't understand because
Right.
they live programmed with their mask, but behind the facade of the mask, they live miserably. They're sad, they're mad, they're angry.
Yes.
They don't know what happiness really, I've had some of the most bleak times financially and been the happiest, right? And I've been able to find ways to be happy amongst not having a lot because I've
Right.
learned how to have perspective on what I do have and gratitude for the blessings that today I'm alive. And if my pantry only shows me a can of beans, then these are the best can of beans I've ever had, right? But think about
Yeah.
that for a minute. Think about that mindset, how different that is. That today I'm alive, so I can go out and figure out a way to find another can of beans, right?
Yep.
That I have my hands and feet and eyes and ears and mouth to go out and hustle and find a way to get another can of beans, right? But if today all I have is a can of beans, then I'm going to thank God for for that can of beans, and I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest, as if it was a tomahawk steak.
Yeah. In my case, it was ramen. Like,
There it is.
so
There,
I totally agree with you
and
100%.
and many of us had to go through the struggle first
Yeah.
before being able to sit back and I tell people don't take things for granted. Don't sit on your laurels
Hmm.
thinking that you've made it because every time it's happened in my life where I'm like, that's where ego creeps in. Ego creeps in and says, I got you, and that's when you're like boasting or you kick
Hmm.
back and you take your foot off the gas and then what happens?
It
Boom,
all falls
a
down.
pandemic hits. Boom,
Yep.
the real estate market dropped. Whatever in the world that you can't control comes into play and knocks you off your pedestal. Now what do? Well, you didn't have boundaries. So you didn't
Hmm.
do the things you needed to do to protect your being. So now you go into a spiral of depression, and now
Yeah.
you don't have the fortitude or the strength to go and pick yourself up. So you go into addiction, right? And then,
Hmm.
and I hate to talk like this, but I'm telling you from experience that it happened to me. And the opposite of how I overcame that was learning how to go back to basics, right? And
Yeah.
understanding that. For you, you're still in that growth stage. You're like I said, you're ramping up, right? But what
Yeah.
are some of these, like if you, we're turning the corner in this year, right? What are
Hmm.
some of the things that you want to do? I'm not even going to call them goals right now because goals can
Hmm.
change so quickly. Give us a
Absolutely.
quick, like, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? What do you
In the
see?
next 3 years,
Yeah, let's look at that.
hopefully my podcast is syndicated on someone's radio station broadcasting, whether or even on streaming services, maybe Netflix, maybe Hulu, maybe it's doing way better on YouTube. I
Right.
don't care, but it needs to have a bigger following and it needs to be syndicated on some show out there, on some
I
radio broadcasting.
In what you do in journalism, in doing, the interviews and everything that you do, you still have to have a mentality of owning this as a business. This is your
Yes.
baby, right? And you have to
Yes.
respect the trade for what it is, right? A lot of the misconceptions out
Absolutely.
there that think that this is just a job. No, look, do your job to the utmost of your ability. But the reality is, this is your baby. And when you have a baby, you take care of that baby and you do as much as you can to raise that baby to become self-reliant individuals. Your business, for what it is, for what you're manifesting out there that you want, needs to be given water and food and needs to be supplanted to grow, right? And this is where you elevate to the next level, right? To
Yeah.
the high level. This is where you take yourself from eye level to high level because you start identifying where the weaknesses are now in your business, right? Where do we got to find improvement day by day, month by month? Who do I need to talk to, right? Make a list, right? I don't care if it's the Pope, you put them on that list because who knows that it can't happen. I don't care because
Right.
nothing is unattainable. Everything is attainable. It's just your mindset has to be there and you got to put it down. You got to put it in writing, right? It has to
Yeah.
you manifest it by talking about it, but you implement it by writing about it, right? So talking
Yes.
is one thing, writing's another. Action is where you come in and you start really putting it to work, right? These things that we're talking about, that we're dreaming, the visions, right? The action is what is a verb, right? And
Yeah.
when God says seek and you shall find, seek is a verb, right? It means you got to work towards that, right? So you start
Absolutely.
talking to the Jimmys of the world and other people that are going to help build bridges to help you get in front of others, right? And talk
Yeah.
to others. So now we start working together and you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And it becomes very reciprocal where things just start happening, right? And magic happens that way, right? All right,
Yes.
guys, the next one, because we're coming to a 5 minute close, it's called the rapid fire iLevel or high level, right?
Oh
So
man.
here we
Okay.
go. First thing that comes to your mind, comfort or growth,
Growth.
discipline or motivation.
Discipline.
Love it. Faith or strategy.
Faith.
Love it. Love it. Patience or urgency.
Patience.
Boom. Now, real quick, because I know it was a tough one. On faith or strategy, why did you pick faith?
Because I had to have faith through every obstacle that I've been through since getting to where I am at today, talking to you today. So I would say faith. Strategy, I've had plans before and they failed. And so I had to redo whatever strategy I was trying to implement at that time. But having faith, um, is that's I still kept going.
Yeah,
And so that's why I chose faith.
I love it.
Yeah.
So when
But
I was
strategy
at,
is important to me, by the way.
no, no, and any of those things that I mentioned, it's not to undermine
Oh
or
yeah.
not give value to those other sides, but in the hierarchy of everything that we do when we're thinking about A or B, because everything's
Hmm.
literally think about it. Every day you're faced on decisions, right? A or B, A or
Yeah.
B, A or B, and many times that decision will come down to your subconscious, and what it leads you to based on maybe a gut feeling, maybe something internal, right?
Hmm.
And I want people to understand that that is a true feeling that is led by a higher power, right? To lead, right? It doesn't mean it's the right one because there's many
Yeah.
times that I've taken that choice and it was the wrong choice. But it was the right choice because if I hadn't taken it, I wouldn't have learned from that choice. You hear where I'm
Right.
going with that? So that even if
Yes.
you make a bad mistake, like many of us have in the trajectory of doing things, it was necessary. You had to go through that fire to get to the other side, right? We didn't understand that at the time, right? Because maybe we
Right.
thought it was a monetary mistake or whatever you want to call it for the mistake that what it was, but it builds on your story and on your success, right? Understand
Yes.
the epitome of success is the building from those experiences, right?
Yep.
And as you elevate, it's all those things that you stepped on, right? I
Yeah.
just have a visual of stepping on things, and it's built with a lot of those experiences, right? And we go
It
from
has been. It has been.
here's the last bit because I really took a lot when I was on your show, and I had to bring this back, right? And
Okay.
this is an homage to you. This is
Oh, thank you.
this is
Okay.
an homage to you because I actually love this on your show, and it's called Rants with Sharryse, right? And this, yeah,
Right.
and I
All
loved it.
right.
So in this, you're gonna have space to share your rant, explain why it matters, and offer a real solution. All right. So give us your rant. What's something business, culture, mindset, society that give us that rant.
Oh man. It's probably I'm gonna say because it came to mind. I'm going to say not using your signal light, especially in North Carolina. We have a lot of back roads, and if you and like some of them have intersections,
Right.
and it's just like, dude, just put on a signal light to say which way you're going, please.
Wow.
First of all, it can cause an accident.
Definitely.
And and then on top of that, like in the morning, people are like zooming by on the interstate. And there's always an accident. Every day I on my way to work, there's an accident
And
because
how
people
long
are
does it really take you to just do this, right? And
right.
putting the
A
signal,
second. You could
right?
save a life. You could save
Right.
some money. Like you could save so many things. So
Yeah,
my solution would be to please use a signal light because you could just save a life, save money, and stop. Well, I don't want to add to the rant, so that's it.
that's
That's my
good.
rant.
That's what it's about, right? And
Yeah.
as we go through life, you're gonna have rants, right? And I always want people to
Right.
start thinking of this. You know, your passion is encouraged. Solutions are required, right? So as you're thinking of your rants, that's your passion into something that is bothering you. But let's find
Yeah.
a way to get there. And remember, there's going to be things you can control, and there's going to be others you can't control, right? So understand that as well. Sharisse, it's been awesome having you here as always. Just
Thank you, Jimmy.
love it. Where can people follow you?
All right. You can follow me on Instagram at connect_like_minds. That's CONNECT_LIKE_MINDS on YouTube as well. And that's connect space like space minds. You can also find me on Facebook. It is still Connect Like Minds there. And you can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, all of it. I'm on every major
Perfect.
platform, and that's still Connect Like Minds on there as well.
So we'll get this edited and we'll get it out to everybody, and you guys will be able to ask me as well. I love connecting people. One final message for someone to trying to level up.
Oh man. Never leave any stone unturned. Whatever stones are in your life, turn them all over
Yep,
until they're all
there we
overturned.
go. There you go. You heard it from the best. Everyone, thank you for tuning in to the iLevel to High Level podcast. I want you to keep elevating yourself. Always keep God first in your life. Ask for help. We are never meant to be down here. We're meant to be up here. So keep elevating yourselves, leveling up, and going to the next level. We'll talk to you guys later. Take
All
care.
right.
Thanks for tuning in to iLevel to High Level. If you're ready to rise above the average, subscribe, share, and follow us for more ways to take your grind to greatness. Until next time, keep pushing higher.